Step 10, co-contraction of all the postural muscles. So we'll start at the base of the spine and we're going to review each of the postural muscles again. And once you contract it, you want to keep it on while you engage the next postural muscle. Always starting the recipe with becoming aware of your base of support. In this exercise called the seated pelvic rock, we put our hands on our hips and we tip the pelvic bowl back as though it were a bowl of water, and we're spilling weight out the back, which puts the weight onto the sacrum, back to the middle, and to the front. And you can just do this kind of easy, stopping in the middle. It also helps to turn sideways so you can see when you're forward, when you're in the middle, and when you're behind yourself. Sense the muscles between the sit bones, the pubic bone, and the tailbone, and lightly contract, which will narrow the sit bones and it will lift the pelvic floor up. And as you do that, you should feel the transverse abdominis contract. The other way to do it is to relax your tummy and let your lower abdomen distend, and then lightly contract the lower abdomen right behind my fingertips here, pulling it straight back. Keeping the lower abdomen and the pelvic floor contracted, putting the hands on the side of the ribs, take 3 deep breaths to engage the diaphragm. Make sure you keep the lower abdomen contracted as you expand into the lateral width of the lower ribs 3 times. You can also have one hand on the ribs and one hand on the lower abdomen. So you're monitoring your lower abdomen to make sure you don't relax those muscles as you breathe into the lateral width of your lower ribs. Hard to take a deep breath and talk at the same time. Okay. Next step is contracting the oblique muscles, which work during twisting movements. So I'm going to squeeze the sides of my waist, narrow, and then keep my hands on the sides of my waist as I'm twisting. Then we move into the muscles going up the back of the spine and up the front of the spine. For the back of the spine, put your fingertips in your lower back, kind of go up and down so you can feel where you find a ditch, and put your fingertips on either side, and then this is called the seated waiter's bow. So I'm leaning forward about 20 degrees. I feel those muscles bulge under my fingertips, and then I sit back up, keeping them contracted. Now that my lumbar multifidus is contracted, I'm going to the front of the lumbar spine into the iliopsoas muscle group, and specifically the psoas major, which runs up the front of the spine. So I showed you 2 ways to do that. One is by flexing the hips. Notice how my spine and my body are staying pretty stable. Or I can lean back and feel that lift along the front of my spine. And then as I sit back up, I keep the lift. Now I'm going to go back to the lumbar multifidus again. Feel the contraction in the back. Keep those muscles contracted as I sit back up. And then back to the psoas, feeling the lift and keeping that length. Posterior neck muscles are the cervical intrinsics. To feel those, I put my hands on the back of my neck and I just lift the back of my head a little bit, and I'll feel those vertebrae and the muscles along the sides of the spine come back into my hands, especially if your head is forward. So you can see my head is forward, and then I lift to come back. I can also lean forward at the waist, same thing that I did with the lumbar multifidus, and feel the cervical multifidus contract. So I like to do them both together. So I have one hand on my lower back, one hand on my neck, and I feel those muscles bulge backwards as I lean forward, and keep them on as I come back up. Front of the neck, the longus colli, where I'm going back, and I'm feeling an elongation along the front of my neck behind my windpipe. As I sit back up, I keep that elongation. So leaning back, elongating, sit back up, and keep the elongation. And step 9, the lower trapezius. So we're going to round the shoulders. Imagine we have muscular suspenders, and those suspenders are going down the back, and what they're doing is they're lifting the front of the shoulders. Give you a side view of the same exercise. So I'm feeling this place right here, bottom of my scapula. As I lift here, the bottom of my scapula goes down my back and my lower trapezius contracts. You can also just visualize the muscle and imagine it contracting, or you can slowly raise your arms, which will contract the lower trapezius. I feel like I have anchors or sandbags on my scapula, pulling my scapula down my spine. And then as I put my arms down, I keep those lifted. Here's not lifted, there's lifted. Keeping the back wide so we're not pinching and we're not narrowing. So that's it. Going through my 10 steps for pain-free posture, contracting all the posture muscles so you can get your blocks stacked and you can align and balance your body, especially your joints and your muscles. If you found this helpful, please give me a thumbs up, join my YouTube channel, and share this with your friends. Okay, thanks so much for joining me today. I hope you feel better than when you came in. See you later.